Welcome, friends. This morning's presentation is on health and Tridosha, which is a system of rooting out disease. Next Sunday's presentation will be on Manas and the fifth round. That will be followed by our continuing reading and discussion of the key to Theosophy. All work of this lodge is aimed at passing on, in its purity, teachings of the ancient message from the Masters of Wisdom that H.P. Blavatsky named Theosophy and transmitted to the world for us to make a living power of in our lives as we assimilate the teachings into our every thought and action. We all have a role in this endeavor. Please help us with your attendance on Sundays at 11 a.m. at the address shown in front of the podium here, or whatever you can do to keep these uplifting teachings alive and thriving. We continue to be guided by the UOT Declaration printed on the back of our program and also shown on our website. We work independently and with each other to achieve a truer realization of the self, a profounder conviction of universal brotherhood. We hold that the unassailable basis for union among Theosophists, wherever and however situated, is similarity of aim, purpose, and teaching. We have neither constitution, bylaws, nor offices. The sole bond between the associates of this lodge is the furtherance of unity. We regard as Theosophists all who are engaged in the true service of humanity without distinction of race, creed, sex, condition, or organization, and we welcome to our association all those who are in accord with the declared purposes of our declaration and who desire to fit themselves by study and otherwise to be the better able to help and teach others. The true Theosophist belongs to no cult or sect, yet belongs to each and all. Today's reading is from the Dhammapada, pages 84 and 85. This is chapter 25 on the Bhikkhu. Restraint in the eye is good. Good is restraint in the ear. Restraint in the nose is good. Good is restraint in the tongue. In the body, restraint is good. Good is restraint in speech. In the mind, restraint is good. Good is restraint in all things. A bhikkhu who is restrained in all things is free from all pain. Call him a bhikkhu who controls his hand, also his feet, who controls his speech, who is well controlled, who is happy within himself, who is collected and full of contentment in solitary life. Sweet is the preaching of that bhikkhu who guards his tongue in speaking wisdom, who elucidates both the letter and the spirit of the law without being puffed up. He who abides in the law, who delights in the law, who meditates on the law, who remembers well the law, such bhikkhu does not fall from the sublime law. Let him not disdain what he has received. Let him not envy others. A bhikkhu who envies others will not obtain peace in meditation. Even the gods praise that bhikkhu who disdains not what he has received, however little, but lives a strenuous and pure life. He indeed is a bhikkhu who does not identify his soul with his name and form, his mind and body, and who grieves not for what he does not possess. The bhikkhu who practices metta, compassion, who abides happily in the wisdom of the Buddha, who has still conditioned existence, and attains of a surety the blessed state of peace supreme. And now for today's talk, Health and Tridosha.
Good morning and welcome, friends. Today's subject is extensive, but we can only do a synopsis of it. And those of you who will be interested in subject can go and look Dr. Bhattacharya's paper. It's in book form, but it's small. It's called The Science of Tridosha, an analysis of the three cosmic elements in medicine, food, and diseases. First, I want you to please go to the Secret Doctrine, page 593, and find this chart, which shows the human principles and principles of physical nature and how they correspond. And in this Tridosha system, the same also exists. HPB put this chart there to show us the correspondences. Remembering that Tridosha means three faults or three elements which can be drained in the system of the human and its correlative power to the cosmic principles, and how by using the elemental forces we can actually give the body what it needs to repair itself without interfering with those forces. Now, in the Tridosha, we have three faults or doshas, and we'll put them here. And for convenience sake, the writer uses air, fire, and water, which we are very familiar with. And then gives its equivalent in Sanskrit, which is vata for air, and fire is pitta, and water is kapha. We have to also remember that these refer to the astro-spinal divisions of the inner man. They're divisions of the inner man. And then if we correlate them to this list here, fire, pitta, is hydrogen, air is oxygen, and water is nitrogen. It is important to stay with this list as is given, because otherwise we won't be able to correlate them to our principles. So, HPB on page 82 of the Secret Doctrine tells us I think I gave you my paper. Yeah. On page 82, HPV tells us that the four primal natures of the first Dhyan Chohans are the so-called, for want of a better term, akashic, ethereal, watery, and fiery, answering in the terminology of practical occultism the scientific definitions of gases, which to convey a clear idea to both occultists and laymen must be defined as parahydrogenic, paraoxygenic, oxyhydrogenic, ozonic, or perhaps nitrogenic, the latter forces or gases being the most effective and active when energizing on the plane of more grossly differentiated matter. These are both electropositive and electronegative, and this list also is electropositive and electronegative. Here, nitrogen stands for the mucous membranes in the body. Air, which is oxygen, stands for the nervous system. And hydrogen, which is fire, stands for blood circulatory system. So here it is, the physical divisions, the cosmical divisions, and astro-spinal divisions of the inner man. And when we talk about the atom, we also talk about electrons, protons, and neutrons. Okay, electrons, negatively charged particles, protons are positively charged particles, and neutrons are neutrons. They're not charged, they're neutral, in other words. This three is exhibited also here. Hydrogen, fire is positive, air, oxygen, nitrogen is the neutral one. So, in the Tridosha system, Bhattacharya did humanity a tremendous favor. Hahnemann came up with his system 1800s, homeopathy. What Hahnemann did not know was Sanskrit. He knew all of the European languages plus Arabic, but he did not know Sanskrit. So he based his system on curing symptoms. Today's medicine is basically following that same principle. It tries to cure what the symptoms are. But in the Tridosha system, which is from the Ayurveda, we are looking to the cause of the disease and how that cause can be removed. We must remember here that the cosmic principles are at all times harmonious. When these three principles in the human are deranged or not harmonious, that's when dis-ease, this word, dis-ease occurs. So the cause, he's telling us, is in these three primal elements. And we just read from the Secret Doctrine that these correspond to the primary Dhyan Chohans. So they're cosmic, universal, as well as in the microcosm, which is us. Fire in the Secret Doctrine is represented by hydrogen, and we said it's the circulatory system, blood. It says hydrogen is the lightest of all gases, and it burns in oxygen, giving off most intense heat and releasing water. That is Kamarupa as our principle. Nitrogen represents water. It represents the mucous membranes in the body, It is linga sarira, which is the inert vehicle or form on which the body is molded. So it is the life or the vehicle of life. And prana, which is oxygen, representing air, which is the nervous system, is the life principle. But in the Secret Doctrine on page, let me see what page this was on. Page 95 and 96, HPB has an explanation about vital airs in there, and it is important to understand what those vital air. She says to us in the book, the vital winds or breath is referred to as the 7 sacrificial priests or hotris, and these are also related to our senses. And at the bottom she says, even though these senses occupy a space which is very close to one another, they're not aware of each other. However, they work in harmony with one another, bringing about health. And the last thing she says is, all are greatest in their own spheres and all support one another. There is one unmoving life wind or breath, which is called the yoga inhalation, which is the breath of the one self, the higher self, or she says you may call it my own self, accumulated in numerous forms. So in this system, the causation is looked for. What is the cause of the disease? And Bhattacharya is telling us that it is these 3 primary elements we have to look at in the body to figure out where the cause of the disease is, not the symptoms, the cause. Okay, now we will look at these separately and see what we can say a little bit about them. We'll start with air. Vata, nervous system, on the list it's prana, which is the life principle. All these elements have 5 subdivisions. And in the Secret Doctrine, remember what we call them? Officiating priests or hotris. And these are the ones that are listed. Prana is the vital air. It is situated in the cavity of the mouth. It enables food to go into the stomach. It is also located near the heart and protects it from destruction. Udana is the upward breath. It occupies the upper part of the body and especially the throat. With the help of this air, we talk, sing, cough, sneeze. Okay, the first one is prana. I'll put the names here. And the second one is Udana. Their Sanskrit word. The third one is Samana, which is the one we're going to talk about right now. This is even breath. It is located in the stomach in the region of the intestines, and it helps digestion by splitting up food into fragments and separates the waste matter from it. Vyana is diffused air. It is present through the human organism, and it supplies rasa, which is serum, to all parts of the body and keeps it lubricated. and causes the outflow of blood and respiration. Apana is downward. It resides in the lower intestines and it forces down the fetus during birth and the stool, urine, and all such waste matter. Now, air, 5 divisions of the air. Now we will go to fire. 5 kinds of fire constitute the division, and these are Pachaka. Where should I put it? I guess I have to take the top off so you can see how it is spelled. This was water, air, now we're going to fire. Okay, Pachaka, Ranjaka, Sadhaka, Alochaka, and Bhrajaka. Can't spell. And these are the 5 officiating priests or hotaries that constitute 5 kinds of fire. Pachaka is digestive. It digests food and it reduces food to its fine parts and then separates it from waste. Ranjaka, coloring. The only function of this fire to impart redness to the food that has been churned up for digestion. It resides in the liver and the spleen. Sadhaka, this fire is situated in the heart and by its special power drives away tamas, which is delusion. This is the finest of all of the fires. Alochaka, seeing, this fire is situated in the pupil and it enables the eye to keep normal vision. Bhrajaka means shining. This fire resides in the skin and it imparts natural shine to the skin. Water. Five divisions. Kledaka, Avalambaka, Bhattacharya, Tarpaka, Slishmaka. Okay, these divisions provide the water to the body. Kledaka, moisture. It resides in the stomach and increases the power of the water that goes to all other parts of the body. Its chief function is to help digestion. Avalambaka, it protects all joints and enables the heart to perform its duties. Bhattacharya, feeler. The third kind of water is located in the throat and at the root of the tongue, and imparts the power of taste to the tongue. Tarpaka means pleasing, the fourth kind of water located in the head. It helps the function of the eyes, ears, and nose. Shleshmaka, phlegm, the fifth kind of water, is located in the joints and keep them integrated. And it enables the limbs to move without dislocating themselves. So any of these elements, when they are not in accord with one another, can cause dis-ease. In the book, it is extensive as said. All divisions of health are addressed. These are the elements that when they are not harmoniously working in conjunction with another causes dis-ease, which is disease. How do we then diagnose the disease? In the book, Bhattacharya uses the pulse. It is one of the most difficult ways to actually diagnose disease. In the West, when we go for a checkup, the pulse is normally done by a machine. It is not done by a doctor. So it requires, he says, for a doctor to be of sound mind, calm nature, proficient in meditation, one-pointedness has been achieved, and the doctor also has intuitive powers. This Ayurvedic medicine cannot be just practiced by anyone. One has to be internally suited to be able to feel the patient's pulse to diagnose it. In the Ayurveda, Taittiriya, it is stated that there are 600 pulses mentioned. This is the old medicine we are talking about, 3,000 years old, 600. Bhattacharya in this book gives 60. So in order for a physician, he says, to know the normal from the abnormal, the physician has first to learn to identify the normal, and he needs to listen to the pulse at the root of the right thumb here. He says this is the inner soul's voice heard externally. The thumb ends here, and you have to put two fingers there, and then index, middle, and ring finger placed on the right hand, wrist, below the thumb, and this is how he diagnosed all of his patients. And the 60 that he gives in here is divided into three major ones. When the fire, he says, is at fault, or when the air is at fault, or when the water is at fault, you can distinguish three different pulses. When it is depleted, it slows the pulse. Your pulse becomes slower than normal. So, water gives a slow pulse. Fire and air. When air is fault, it becomes fast. So this is easy to see in a person who's really exhibiting these pulses. The other one, let me find the page and we'll go over it. So he says this is easily distinguished. But when he goes to the end of the chapter, which I can't give you all of it, it's just not possible. For instance, he puts these there: accelerated, cold, dry, faltering, fickle, full, harsh, circular, crooked, expanded, agitated, crippled, hairy, heavy, hollow. How does one then know how to differentiate between these pulses? An ordinary person could not be able to do it, is what I'm getting at. Jumpy. It's just for convenience sake, he puts this stuff up here. This, anyone perhaps can distinguish, but the other ones he's put in this list are not as easily recognized. He says, the learned physician should read the happiness and misery of the body by feeling the pulse at the root of the thumb, which stands as the witness of the soul. In this verse, the pulse is called the witness of the soul. The pulse thus signifies the outward witness of the internal soul. By understanding the pulse, the physician knows whether the body and soul are in a happy or miserable state. So here again, as in the principles given out in Theosophy, the soul is in charge of the mind, and all of the senses come under the jurisdiction of the brain, which is the vehicle of the mind. So we need to keep that in mind, that because he is stressing here that it is necessary to protect the body through the nervous system, because if we did not, and he says the soul leaves the body, then the person is dead. The soul is not dependent on the body, but the body is dependent on the soul for its survival. So in this system then, we need to remember that the soul is in charge, and everything that comes about is for the soul's purpose. It's a learning experience that we are going through. He also has a list of diseases with their component parts, and he lists them. Tridosha of diseases is on page 27. For instance, cholera, V5, P5, K5, showing us that all of the 15 subdivisions of the 3 primary elements are out of harmony with one another. They're depleted. Colic is V5, K5, V, air, K, water. So 10 of the 15 are not functioning. Gangrene is P5, K5. In the West, we lose our fingers and toes when it becomes gangrenous. But in the Tridosha system, medicine is used to cure these diseases. He cures cancer. He cures cancer, gangrene, fistula, convulsion, blindness, bronchitis with medicine. It's the homeopathy with the Tridosha superimposed on it. The medicine is homeopathic, and he actually had a dispensary where it was manufactured, and he provided to the poor. But he was curing people, not alleviating the symptoms, but curing them of disease. So we can go to this list and look at it. And here, obesity is a V5, K5, and I'll put this here. I think the West especially is suffering from this problem. V5, K5, V is air, K is water, and those two primary elements with their 10 subdivisions are out of correspondence with one another. They're depleted, so it causes obesity. In this system, if we understand the primary elements that are out of harmony with one another, and it is provided, then disease, this is removed. This is removed. He actually says that food can do the healing very easily if we know its elemental composition. And he does give a list of food in here with the primary elements listed next to it. Here we go. On page 47 and continues on 48, he gives the Tridosha elements. Apples, V5. Bananas, V5, K5. Celery, P5. Cabbage, K5. Artichokes, K5. Carrots, V5, K5. So they're listed. And in this section, he tells us that there are 4 superfoods because all 3 of the elements are contained in them. Cream, fresh milk, fresh fish, and black pepper. The black pepper without crushing it, the kernels, however we say. So those 4 are superfoods. And he gives the priests of old as an example. He says that priests had difficult time with keeping their hygiene and health. So every morning, each priest took 7, is it kernels?
Peppercorns.
Peppercorns, the whole peppercorn. 7 of them with water, and this is how they retained their health, because black pepper corns are able to supply the 15 necessary subdivisions of these 3 primary elements. In the medicines that we give, he also gives 6 or 8 medicines that can cure anything. He lists them this way: ammonium carbonicum, ammonium muriaticum, baptisia, camphor, crocus sativa, ferrum metallicum, ferrum phosphoricum, and sepia. All these can cure any kind of disease because all 15 elements, subdivisions of the 3 elements, are all available in those. This knowledge has been out since 1950s. This student is not aware that anyone in the West is primarily using Tridosha imposed on homeopathy. In the West, medicine is used to alleviate the symptoms, but it does not cure anything, because if the symptom comes back, then we have to take the same medication to make it go away. It really is not based on this system. The student's mind is reeling as to why it is not used. But we as human beings have to become physicians. That other statement in this philosophy, man, know thyself. Well, the second statement is, be your physician, because if you do not get involved in your health, you will not be able to have it. Many diseases are psychosomatic, and this is acknowledged in the book, but they're still curable. How is the cure brought about with these medicines? We need to mention it. We just read on page 82 the Dhyan Chohanic principles that are given to these elements, by the primary Dhyan Chohans. In this system, the medicine is potentized. In other words, it has energetic and healing power because it is ionic. It is ionic. And the ions come from cosmic elements. The ions know their duty. They are conscious, they are intelligent, and they harmonize because they're universal. That is their duty, to keep everything harmonized. And Bhattacharya stresses this point that if we provide the ions that are necessary to bring about harmony in the human system, they will do their work 100% of the time. They never deviate from their responsibility because their work is harmony. So, this is what is provided in this system of the 6 or 8 medicines that have the 15 subdivisions of the 3 primary elements, and it brings about harmony by interjecting itself in the right place because it knows its duty, and it does it 100% of the time. So we will stop here and open the floor for questions.
You were just talking about the psychosomatic part. I'm curious about the patient-physician relationship, how, if there's any discussion about that, and how it should be, how the physician should act around the patient, and how the physicians should set a healing environment. And there's, in the West, it's called the placebo effect. What's the role of the patient in terms of the belief in the medicine, this medicine? Because my understanding, that's also a big part of the healing process.
Yes, it is. Okay, so your question is, what is the patient and physician relationship, and what is the patient's responsibility in this process is, I think, what you're asking. Okay. The first statement we made with today's talk was that you need to be your own physician. That means that you have to participate. You have to participate. In other words, if you do not believe in the system, can the ion do its work? No. You have to wholeheartedly believe in it so that it can do its work. So, this is not blind belief. This philosophy is based on truth, as much of it as it could be given out, So each one has to participate in obtaining that truth in regard to health, as well as all the other aspects of life that we discuss here. So participation is important. Belief based on knowledge is also important. How do we get that? By being involved, not leaving all of the decision making to your physician. And he says, a physician who is, I think we had said these characteristics before, of calm mind, health, good health, calm mind, meditative, has internal intuitive powers, because the student cannot just quite understand how you would be able to feel the pulse, even if it lists 60. That's a lot of different kinds of pulses. He explains them in the book in detail, by the way, but we don't have that kind of time to go into it. And his recommendation is that if the physician has those qualities, then he can examine the ill person at the root of the thumb in this manner. That the physician and the patient ought to finish all their work for the morning session, and you cannot eat and be examined. You cannot have a bath immediately before and be examined. He has the rules in here. In other words, your stomach cannot be empty, but it cannot be full either. That median recommendation of Buddha is in there as well, that you cannot sit there to be examined and feel hunger, but if your stomach is too full, then he won't be able to feel your pulse. So that's one criteria. Two is that the patient and the physician have to be seated comfortably, and the arm has to be in a relaxed position. And all the other criteria in there, when it cannot be felt, is also, but those are the primary ones. And that the pulse is the reliable witness of the soul that speaks externally. But everyone is not, I don't think, qualified to be able to feel that pulse and say what exactly is wrong with you. Because he lists all these pulses with their VPK elements on the side of it. Because life and health is at the end of this diagnosis, correct? So if the doctor, the physician, makes an error in this kind of pulse diagnosis, then you can also actually affect the patient in a negative way. He says these potentized medicines are not poisons, not potentized. Not poisons, but they are potentized. They have power. Remembering that the human being is living in a powerful electromagnetic environment, these ions have tremendous initiating power, because they're going to go where they're needed and cure what is disharmonized. But if you give the wrong medication, they will aggravate the situation. So the human being is living in a dynamic field operation. He himself is dynamic, but the elements are also energized. They have tremendous initiation power because they're electrical, right? Electricity, when the electrons are lined up, it's photon. but it is nevertheless charged. So potentized medicines have, they're ionized, so they have tremendous potential power of cure, but they also can aggravate. And he says, when the physician doesn't do the diagnosis correctly, the patient actually will be aggravated. So you can tell from that your diagnosis or the medicine prescribed is not correct. The recommendation in this system is like cures like. This is Henneman. In other words, we just listed 3 elements and gave them their astro-spinal definition as well as physical definition in the human being. If the cold element, for instance, water, what is water, the mucous membranes are all disharmonized, and you give the patient a hot medicine. Hot medicine is for fire, right? But you're giving it for a cold illness, which is water. That is when aggravation is going to happen, because it cannot cure it. It's not like the disease itself. So, Tridosha is important in the sense that you give the correct medicine for the correct cause. We're not dealing here with symptoms, we're dealing with the primary elements. These are cosmic elements as well as elements in the human body. Because are they different really? No. We use them, we abuse them, or we're harmonious and we promote health. And this is important here. So he says the first order is diet. In other words, nutrition. Not dieting, but diet in the sense that taking in the correct nutrition. And he says it is necessary that these 3 elements be provided to the body in a harmonious manner. Some people have certain preferences and other people have other preferences. But where health is concerned, the PVK elements of the food is necessary that you have all 3 in your diet. The P is fire. So, pitta. He says all of the legumes are that kind of food. All of the legumes. In other words, the seeds contain fire. Why? Because it's going to germinate and become a plant. It's necessary for it to have it. What other P's? Solids. Solid foods are P foods. K is water. He says all of the leafy vegetables, even though they look all different, they have that K in it. And air, olives have air in them, dates have their VK, but the V is there too. Olives, dates, he lists them, they're all in here. So it's necessary to correspond them in your diet, that you eat a balanced diet, in other words. And he gave the 4 superfoods that if you include a little bit of fresh milk, a little bit of cream on certain days, a little bit of fish on other days, fresh fish, and you stay with the pepper if your body can tolerate it, 7 of those each day. He says he does not see why a person cannot stay in optimum health if you don't have any issues at all. It's best to maintain that health rather than have issues and then have to correct it. So if we eat a balanced diet, remembering that leafy vegetables mostly are K, and P, legumes and seeds and that kind of stuff, and air, he has a list in here. I found it and then I let it go again. towards the end. Okay, the V foods. Cornflakes are V, cream cheese is VK, dates are VK, grapes are VK, oatmeal is VK. It's not a whole lot of them here. Cornmeal is V. Sunflower seeds are P. Tea is V. Coffee is P. Nutmeg is V. So spices have a tremendous benefit. Sweets are VP. Sweet. All the sweets. All the sweets are.
What's that one? It's on the board.
Sweets. What did I say they were? PK was it or VP? VP. This is very important to know. So, fire and air. If you eat anything that is sweet, yes, thank you. If you eat anything that is sweet, it pacifies both of these. If you can tolerate sugar. Let me see what else. Potatoes are P. So he gives all of the basic elements in here, which is really helpful. But also remembering the other statement, the leafy vegetables are all Ks and legumes are all Ps. And V is spread all across the board. Meat is, by the way, a K, which is water. Meat is K. I was really shocked to see that because it's so solid and yet it is K. Meat is K. Fish is VPK. It has all of the 15 sub-elements that these three primary elements have. So it is really a good food. Bananas are also good. Avocados are K. Broccoli is V. Cauliflower is K. Chocolate is P because it's sugar. Chocolate has sugar in it. So all of the sweets are VP. I wanted to read something at the end he wrote here. Talking about treatment here. It says here, the human system is an organism which is slow to move, since it is not a machine. In other words, once the medicine, potentized medicine, is introduced, the recommended period is that 1 month of cure, in other words, 1 month of medication is necessary for 1 year of disease. If you have had this disease for 5 years, so the minimum treatment is 5 months. In other words, you have to give the ions time to go and insert themselves in the appropriate places on a continuum so that they can eliminate the disharmony. It's important to remember it. For instance, he says, a case of cancer cannot be cured in a few hours. Howsoever clever the doctor may be, we have to give the potentized medicine sufficient time. Secondly, to give a dose of medicine is to request the various cosmic powers to restore unbalanced harmony. It is a gentle request to the all-knowing and all-powerful conscious ion to undertake the noble mission of restoring the balance that is lost in the human body. Thirdly, aggravation is a sign of bad treatment, although it has now become a convenient shield to hide ignorance. If the patients are treated according to Tridosha, if the doses are not heavier than recommended, and if the element of air is present in the medicine, it will never aggravate a single patient. The V, air, what was it representative of? The nervous system. Fourthly, harmony of cosmic elements is the process of cure. There are those members of the medical profession who tell of their responsibility for scientific treatment, not cure. A treatment which does not cure is something unintelligible even in this age of colossal absurdities. 2600 years ago, in the Indian epic of the Mahabharata, the definition of medicine was better. Quotation, "O son of Pritha, know that to be the medicine which cures." Surely, he says, we are advancing, and how wonderful. He's kind of interjecting in there that we need to be very careful as to how we choose our physician. Harmony of cosmic elements is the most natural thing in life. The cosmic forces are striving continuously for harmony. Homeopathy is a powerful cosmic force. It must strive continuously for producing harmony by removing the ugliness of disease. Homeopathy has the greatest power to restore harmony. It is for the homeopaths to see that they are worthy to handle the subtle and mysterious powers mercifully placed in their hands. The blessings of the old Aryan sages are on the head of homeopathy. India makes a gift of her 3,000 years unbroken chain of experience in homeopathy. Let the two oceans of Eastern and Western thought currents commingle in Tridosha homeopathy. Let the highest synthesis of the East unite with the subtlest analysis of the West. He's also referring to all of the electromagnetic and electronic devices that have been invented since this time, like MRIs and all that, which is helpful if we know how to use it. But on its own, as the Western world does, it cannot really diagnose anything, because you go through a series of exams and tests to eliminate what you do not have. They don't know what you have, so they're looking to see what it is you have. That cannot be the primary way to diagnose disease. May the blessings of the highest knowledge, I should say, be upon homeopathy and all its lovers. The cosmic soul knows its need and takes to itself that which belongs to it. It comes from the cosmic, so when we place the cosmic elements to produce harmony, it does its work 100% of the time. Thank you.